What's good, friends list, episode 91 of the Gamecast coming at you. Microsoft has been on a bit of a spending spree over the past few years, picking up tons of studios and even publishers to show their increased commitment to gaming, but now it looks like they may just be picking up an entity that seems to be a central piece to every modern gamer setup: Discord. So, this week, we tackle the latest buzz surrounding reports that Microsoft is currently in talks to acquire the gaming-centered communication giant, and what that could potentially mean for the rest of the industry. Does the downfall of Mixer still give fans hesitation over the tech giant's ability to properly handle software and services? Plus, a new leak date for Halo Infinite's release date may be floating around out there, Xbox Live is no more, well, sort of, and much, much more coming up on the newest jam-packed episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz, the whole rigmarole that I tell you every week. Every week we go through it. Go over there and do it. Please, that actually helps a lot. And follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding our show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Mike Peapack. Mike, what's good? What's going on? And I need to preface this, too, because we've obviously been talking about it. You got your COVID shot already. I just got my first one today, so being my best friend for going on now, as weird as this is to say, close to 30 years of our lives, it's at that point now where, like, you know me, I have cotton mouth like no other, just to begin with. Whenever, especially if I'm doing the show and I'm recording and I'm talking. The COVID shot, the dehydration, like, mouth is real. It is very real. So if you guys think it's bad before, with me kind of at times, you're in for a fucking treat this week, let me tell you right now. Like, daddy's home, to put it this way. But Mike, as always, though, what's good, what's going on, and what have you been playing, my friend?
Personally, I've just been playing a little bit more of StarCraft Remastered. That's the first StarCraft. Me and Marshy have been dabbling in that just a little bit. And also still playing some Halo here and there, but and Killing Floor. But I don't have anything very new in the scheme of things here. I've just basically been playing, nothing too crazy, nothing that insane. Just playing same old for me. The biggest thing for me has just been, just trying to figure out what's going to be coming down the pipe next for me as far as what game I'm gonna play.
Mm-hmm. No, and I'm definitely right there with you. Because I've kind of been, I don't want to say in a lull, because that sounds so negative, because I've been playing a decent amount of video games recently, and not in a bad way. Like, I've gotten, and I'm still on my Overwatch binge. Like, that is that, crack pipe that I have that, like you talk about with CSGO. You go back to hitting the old crack pipe. Like, Overwatch is that for me for the most part. At least in the same vein as, a Counter-Strike or something like that. It's that everlasting gobstopper of a game that, I can continue to come back to really whenever I want to. And I've had the itch recently to go back. I think it's just because Overwatch League is starting back up here soon, right towards the, beginning of April or so. So kind of getting back in that mood. I ordered some new Overwatch gear and shit like that. So, like, I was getting like, yeah, you know what? I'm in the mood to kind of jump back into Overwatch. And, it's kind of been doing some deep dives on different heroes and things like that I've been wanting to learn to play. So, but I've kind of been in that same I don't want to say rut or anything like that, but it's just, I have that, kind of, couple games here that I'm kind of playing in rotation, mainly Overwatch, when I can dedicate a couple hours and, a couple hours a day, if not more, to playing a single game. It's usually that recently. But I'm still, you and I and Marshy, playing Killing Floor, playing whatever kind of comes up in our, radar. But normally I'd always have a game like that my fiance and I are starting to play or something like that. But we don't really have that right now. But there is one that is coming up, and that's It Takes Two, from Hazelight Games, who the makers of Brothers, and also more recently, A Way Out. So we really enjoyed that. My fiance and I really enjoyed A Way Out. Joseph Ferris being the lead designer and director on that game. Not to mention this one coming up as well. If you don't know who I'm talking about, it is the guy who, I don't want to say infamously because it's so beloved at this point, but who said fuck the Oscars at the Game Awards whenever Jeff Keighley was interviewing him. So, his games are so unique to what they do, and it's something I am so interested in playing because not only is it getting rave reviews right now, but more so, it's a game built to play. Their games, at least more recently over the past 10 years or so, their games are built and centered around co-op. It's their co-op experiences. They're not, you can play single player in the sense of you can play it online. You don't need to have somebody next to you on the couch to play. You could do it online and, play it with somebody. And realistically, all you need, if you have one copy of the game, even if it is online, you can play it with that person. Like, you can give them, like, it has a buddy pass built into it, which I always find really, really refreshing. And especially to having, I believe EA is backing this up again. Let me make sure. But I believe, EA is publishing it again. It Takes Two. They published A Way Out as well from Hazelight. But their origins, like, or EA Originals, I think is what it's called, or something like that. They're independent IP publishing, and that they do to help out smaller projects and things like that. But I really, really, really admire that. And I really, Mike, you're from the same age as I am in terms of gaming, where, at a young age, there wasn't a ton of online multiplayer. That was kind of a burgeoning thing. It was a lot of couch co-op playing, whether it be Mario Kart, whether it be Super Smash Brothers, whether it be then moving into Halo and, games like that, and advancing into, FPSs, and then even just, party games and things like that. It's all, playing something like a co-op experience, actually sitting down couch co-op style, is such a foreign concept anymore that when these experiences come up, especially ones like, It Takes Two, it's getting rave reviews. People are loving it. It's something I don't want to miss out on, because that's such a bygone thing left. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. It's something that isn't necessarily, it's not like something that's completely out of date or like completely disappeared, because we see, developers clearly making an effort to make games like this work, but it definitely is something that seems to be a little bit of like almost like a lost art. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Absolutely. I totally agree. So yeah, it's stuff like that I want to make sure I support. We always talk about speaking with your wallet, and, if you don't like something, especially in a capitalistic society, if you don't like something, the easiest way to let people know is don't support it, don't buy it, don't do things like that. But there's also the double-edged sword with, well, there's maybe the shitty decisions aren't coming from the 99. It's just the 1% who's involved with the game, and yada, you're in the, that's a whole other can of worms. But, when it comes to things like this positively, I do want to make sure I support with my wallet, to make sure, even if we get a code or something like that, I want to make sure I go out and at least buy a physical copy or something like that, just to show my support of, yes, I want more of this. Even if it isn't all the time, I want to be able to have these experiences that, it's not a game that, it may be a little bit of an, a bigger leap in faith, to give somebody, hey, let's play duos on Halo 1 or something online through MCC or whatever, and I give my fiance a controller and say, hey, play, like, you know, she may not be able to figure that out right away, where, you know, games like these that are designed specifically to bring in more casual people into playing games who don't necessarily play games all the time, but have a great experience, tell a great story, have great writing involved with them, you know, but more importantly, be able to pick up and play and have those type of experiences still, you know, I want to make sure I support that. So that's kind of the game that's coming up on my radar. We have, you know, obviously this is the year of delays as we're seeing right now with, you know, the pandemic and everything like that. And, you know, we'll obviously get into it. I actually didn't even get a chance to put it in the run of show whenever I was getting the show ready for this week, because it just broke on the way here, or a little bit earlier than that when I was on my way home from work. But Back for Blood delayed until October. So, like, you know, we're seeing more and more games get delayed this year. So eventually we're going to have a new, you know, slate of games, but I feel you whenever you're saying there's that pocket of games that we're kind of, you know, faced with now, that it's like, yeah, I'm just going to, you know, keep playing these few games that I enjoy and can, you know, dump time into because I want to play games right now. And, but there's nothing necessarily new out right now that, you know, you want to jump in and grab. So, Mike, with that said, let's end the button mash for the week. If you're new to the show, Button Mash, we go over our quick hit news stories before the week to get you all catched up before we head into our big topics for the week. So, kicking off Button Mash with Microsoft has revealed 2 new official Xbox Series X and S controllers in striking colors. The peripherals were detailed in a post on the Xbox blog, which explains the designs behind the new Electric Volt and Daystrike Camo Xbox wireless controllers. I want that fucking Electric Volt one, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I fucking love neon yellow, green, like that kind of color. I love it. So I may end up splurging and getting that. Shout out to the Stimmy check coming through. Reggie Fils-Aimé has retired from GameStop's board of directors. I know this isn't necessarily super Xbox related, even though GameStop in a roundabout way is. Reggie, obviously known as being one of the Mr. Nintendos, no longer obviously, but one of the, you know, forward-facing, you know, figures with Nintendo, though, taking into a board of directors position with GameStop last year after he retired from Nintendo, so we can now talk about him. But Reggie has retired from GameStop's board of directors just 1 year after joining the company. Reggie is one of 8 directors who are set to retire from the board at GameStop's 2021 annual meeting. The remaining board members will largely be made up of directors relatively new to the board, with many of the company's more established directors leaving along with Reggie. The Resident Evil series celebrates its 25th anniversary this week. Great franchise. We all love it. Abby thought I was. I started clapping. I look over. The dog is now like doing circles. She's like, where the fuck is my tree now? Anyways, Resident Evil. Great series. We all love it. Huge fan. Celebrates its 25th anniversary today, or this week, I should say. And to celebrate, Capcom has announced another Resident Evil showcase for April. No date on it yet, I don't believe. Because I was digging around, couldn't find it yet, but there's going to be one next month. Capcom won't reveal, though, what is set to be at the showcase next month, but Capcom previously hosted a Resident Evil showcase back in January that we all loved, that focused primarily on the next game's entry, Resident Evil Village. So I'm sure we're going to get probably our last final hoorah preview, big push of info on Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8, whatever you want to call it, with that game coming out in May. So be sure to keep your nose to the ground, ear to the ground, something like that. I don't know. On that to find out whenever they're going to be having that in April, because you obviously won't want to miss out on that. Footage from Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Parasite technical test has escaped from quarantine. I got this one. I pulled this one from an IGN post, and not that, you know, they do great work. Obviously, big fan of IGN and a lot of the talented writers there, but I don't know. I don't know if that joke still sits right now. Just me, baby. Just me. I don't know if that joke still sits. We're almost there. We're really close. Then we can start kind of dabbling into dark humor a little bit. But it has escaped, their words, quarantine, their words again, like I'm saying, revealing a number of details about the upcoming PvE shooter spin-off. Over the weekend, some users were spotted streaming the game on Twitch and Facebook Gaming, presumably breaking an NDA by doing so. I never understand that. Clearly, obviously, yeah, you're under NDA. I don't know why you would probably do that, but more power to you. The footage seen by IGN reveals a number of the game's features, although unfortunately, the player was, quote, suspended for cheating, and water is wet, during the live stream. So we didn't get to see any of the multiplayer in action, just the training mode. Assassin's Creed Valhalla's first expansion, Wraith of Druids, will be released on April 29, 2021, and will send Eivor, quote, through the haunted beauty of Ireland as you gain the favor of Gaelic kings and confront the Druidic cult, the Children of Danu. The expansion is part of Valhalla's post-launch support, which was revealed prior to the game's launch in 2020. Following Wraith of Druids in summer 2021, the Siege of Paris will let players relive the most ambitious battle in Viking history as they infiltrate the fortified city of Paris. I need to go back and play Valhalla. I'm such a huge Assassin's Creed fan of the new iterations of them, the RPG ones, I guess you want to call them, that I started playing it, got like an hour or two in, and all I wanted to do was make me play The Witcher, so I went and started replaying The Witcher. So I need to go back and play that. Anyways, CD Projekt Red has revealed a handful of changes that will be implemented as part of the current updated patch 1.2 for Cyberpunk 2077. Its most notable feature is a change to how police respond to crimes, but there are also adjustments to driving and movement controls as well. And finally, fans think that a character called the Foundation from Fortnite's Zero Crisis finale event was played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson earlier this week. Epic Games kicked off Fortnite's Chapter 2 Season 6 with a single-player mission where the player has to save reality with the help of Agent Jones and a new character called the Foundation. The Rock recently posted a video to Instagram titled "The Foundation," where he talks in a cryptic fashion referencing a, quote, big day in a, quote, certain world, which many have taken to mean the new season of Fortnite and its climactic story events. Johnson ends the video by mentioning the Foundation by name with a trademark raised eyebrow as some sort of force that grows and evolves. And obviously, too, like I talked about, top of the show mentioned that Back 4 Blood was delayed to October, which actually, let me pull that up. Oh no, I'm not typing. Back 4 Blood. When was that delayed to? October 12th. I don't know why I didn't have that done. But yes, Back 4 Blood, unfortunately, the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, unfortunately delayed until October. So October 12th, keep an eye out for that. Not to mention Gotham Knights, a game that I was very hyped on from WD Montreal. That has been delayed until 2022. So, as always, the year of delays, like I was saying about, rolls on. And understandably so, to a degree. So, Mike, before we head into our big topics for this week, anything you want to run back on Button Mash?
Obviously, the big bad COVID-19 claiming another game delay with Left 4 Blood, which is kind of disappointing for me because that's a game that I know myself as well as you are really looking forward to that game. So
my god, it's probably upsetting. I would say it's still dated to come out this year and whatnot, but it's still I would say easily top 3 games I'm anticipating this year. On my end, at least.
Yeah, so like whenever a delay like this happens, obviously it's disappointing because you'd like to see the game still come out on time because you're looking forward to it. But nevertheless, that's obviously upsetting. Reggie Vis-a-Me, stepping back is definitely interesting. Well, not necessarily stepping back, if you will, but definitely, stepping away from the board of directors when he just joined the team. Certainly an interesting development with GameStop. We'll see what happens there. And then I definitely want to say, happy anniversary to Resident Evil. It's a game that was in one of my blind spots when I was younger and a gamer. It's definitely a game that is spectacular and deserves its praise. And it's one that each one of the games are relatively different in a way that, if you are someone who enjoys Resident Evil or those type of games, you definitely will feel like each game kind of offers something a little different that you might not have expected, I guess is the best way to put it. So shout out to them. They've had a masterpiece going for this long, and I'm really happy for Resident Evil that it continues. They're coming out with new games. All that's very important and very cool, and I'm so excited for the team, and I'm so excited to see what they come up with Village, because we've talked about it a lot, that 7 feels like one of those games that kind of broke the barrier of greatness, but it definitely
it broke the mold and set I don't want to say a new mold for Resident Evil, but it showed that the formula it showed that you can evolve but still keep the same heart of a game franchise. That it still feels like a Resident Evil game while also evolving to what a lot of, fans of horror video games want in 2017 and beyond, I guess, since we're talking Resident Evil 7. But you get my drift. So, but yeah, no, totally. And I'm the same way. Resident Evil was always a blind spot. It was one of those things. I was very acutely aware of Resident Evil. I wasn't allowed to play Resident Evil games because I think we're all rated mature. So wasn't allowed to when I was younger. And then finally, once I got to that age, started slowly playing them. But really, the first one I remember putting a ton of time into, and I know people are going to kind of, give me shit for that, I'm sure, but is Resident Evil 5 on 360, playing a ton of that, especially online co-op and stuff like that. That was fucking fantastic. But it's not that it wasn't Resident Evil, but it was very much more an action game than a survival horror game. But I really, then coming back to it, truly fell in love with Resident Evil through 7. Like that was my, like I said, I remember Resident Evil growing up. I knew exactly what it was. I knew, it was a horror game and stuff like that. I knew everything going. I knew Raccoon City. I knew Umbrella. And I vividly remember one time having an issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, like EGM, where they had a walkthrough section of Code Veronica in it. And I just remember reading through that and flipping through it because you're, a kid at that time. You're getting magazines every now and then type of thing. So I remember reading through that and being like, man, I'd really like this game one day if I ever got a Dreamcast.
Right.
But yeah, kind of circling it back around, that I've always known what Resident Evil was, but Resident Evil 7 really, truly made me fall in love with that franchise to say, no, I want to go back and play them. And I've gone back and started playing through pretty much all of the Resident Evil games now, where it's like, yeah, I can't wait for Resident Evil 4's remake. I really can't, because that's going to probably set the bar again for these remakes, because they've just been fucking crushing them. And I'm, like I said before, Resident Evil 8, one of my most anticipated games this year. Probably, it's Back 4 Blood, I would say, probably a number 3 position, and Resident Evil is right there with it. Resident Evil 8, probably number 2, I'd say. If gun to my head, I'd probably say number 2. But I'm right there with you. It was a blind spot for so long, but 7's changed the game so much by still making me understand what a Resident Evil game is, while also pulling on my heartstrings with what I really enjoy with modern horror video games. First-person perspective and that feeling of claustrophobia at times and things like that. It's fucking fantastic. So, Mike, let's head into our big topics and news for the week. And kicking it off with pretty big one. Mr. Moneybags, Mr. Microsoft over there, we're speaking broadly. I just imagine that they have a Mr. Monopoly there who's just like, yes, here you go. Yeah. Anyways, but yes, Microsoft, unlimited amounts of money. But Microsoft reportedly in talks to purchase Discord for over $10 billion. I just want to know where people get this fucking money at. Dude, all I want is just give me a little bit of money so I can pay off my student loans, and I'm fucking happy. Then I'm good. I don't need any more money. None. Ever. You don't have to give me anything. But anyways, the big story this week really in the world of Xbox, and I want to say a lot of people are kind of shaky on that. So Adam Bankhurst over on IGN had a really good write-up from it, so I'm going to pull from him and kind of set the stage for this conversation I kind of want to have over this, because the more I think about it, the more interesting it is. So, like I said, link in the description as always for Adam's article. Go over there, give it a click, a like, all that jazz. Share it if you want. I know that means a lot to them. So, Microsoft is allegedly in talks to purchase Discord, the gaming-focused chat software, for over $10 billion US. As reported by Bloomberg, these discussions appear to be early, as there are no imminent deal on the horizon. Furthermore, one source said that despite these talks, Discord may be more likely to go public than sell itself. While Microsoft is one of potential suitors, Discord has also been in discussion with Epic Games and Amazon. VentureBeat first reported that Discord, the company with roughly 140 million monthly users that recently raised 100 million at a $7 billion valuation, was exploring a sale worth more than $10 billion. Discord was said to be the one who reached out to Microsoft to gauge interest in a potential sale, and that Xbox head Phil Spencer, has been part of these chats. While purely speculation, it's important to consider how beneficial having a service like Discord could be for the future of communication on the Xbox platform. Xbox and Discord have worked together in the past, as Xbox owners have had the ability to link their Discord accounts to see what their friends are doing. This acquisition, if it does happen, would bolster Microsoft's continuing plans to make gaming as easy and as accessible for all. Its strategy is focused on offering its games, especially via Game Pass, on console, PC, and mobile, and having Discord integration could make communicating across all these platforms a much smoother process. Owning Discord would only strengthen the value of the Xbox brand, which recently completed its $7.5 billion acquisition of ZeniMax Media, the parent company of developers like Bethesda, Arcane, id Software, and more. So, like I was saying, it's weird. I feel like a development of this caliber was almost inevitable when we're talking of Discord, in the sense that, like, I'm shocked this didn't happen leading into the launch of either one of the two next-gen consoles we have. Well, now, current-gen, I guess I should say. Or at least a direct partnership akin to, hey, the Xbox Series X or X/S or the PlayStation 5 even will offer built-in Discord support at launch to its OS or something like that. Like, I'm shocked because of how integral Discord is to really pretty much, I would say, the majority of gamers' setups and like communication and really just in general. I mean, you have Discord service about fucking anything anymore, but really just communication in general with gaming. Discord is kind of hand in hand with that at this point in modern gaming. So, with that said, there seems to be, though, there's still this bit of hesitation I keep seeing online and, in some articles that I'm reading and whatnot surrounding a Microsoft acquisition that, we're used to seeing surrounding the studio acquisitions and whatnot we've seen in the past few years. And really, like, the one thing that I keep seeing people getting, a little hung up on, and to a degree rightfully so, who seem to be very vocal about this, and they keep pointing towards Microsoft's last service failure in Mixer, and saying, well, look at what happened to Mixer, this and that, having that technology, look at Skype, look what happened to Skype, and this and that, so I want to look at this kind of macroscopically, and kind of pull back a little bit, get the big picture of it all. With a move this large, with a service that is now this ingrained really into the, DNA of modern gaming, I guess, how could an acquisition like this reverberate throughout the gaming landscape, Mike? Obviously it shows Microsoft's commitment really to gaming on a broader scale, and them doubling down yet again on, hey, we want to be the best place for you to play your games and play your games with your friends and all that jazz. Not just in game development, but just in general, But could this potentially cause more damage on a broader scale by having the potential to limit the service to different platforms? If, say that console version I was talking about of Discord was to become available, does this, like I said, the failure of Mixer that a lot of people keep talking about, does it play into it all, in terms of public reception? Let's peel it back. What do you kind of think of all that, Mike?
I definitely can see the concern, or at least the cause for concern, for people that are concerned about that failure in particular and kind of it lingering over Microsoft's head. Obviously, as a company, Microsoft had a little bit of, I'm sure that wasn't like the business plan that they had for Mixer, clearly. And it's definitely disappointing that that's kind of the way that Mixer ended, if you will. But for me, I don't necessarily think that Mixer per se is like gonna be a example of what will happen to Microsoft or to Discord, because to me, Discord is, one of, if not the premier communications program that people use on computer. People use it to play console games, but they, have their computer hooked up. All of that stuff is true about it. And, to be honest, there are people that have been begging for the capabilities to use Discord on a console and Xbox in particular. And this feels like it's kind of making way for that transformation. And that's terrific. And, you know, there's another program that's commonly used, TeamSpeak, on not necessarily so much for gamers that play console games, but certainly, you know, PC gamers use a lot of TeamSpeak. And that's a program that, you know, has been in beta for a very long time, and it's something that people are looking to kind of take advantage of or use. And to me, I see a chance for Microsoft to really introduce a nice change of pace to console communications, especially in game. Because I remember when the Xbox One first came out, you're talking about having to use Skype, and it was just kind of a mess, to be honest. So this is a welcomed you know, change or potential change in everything. And it's something that I hear the concerns of those who believe that it could turn out to be, you know, kind of like the Mixer debacle, if you will. But I'm not willing to say for sure, you know, that's going to be the outcome of this purchase, if you will. I still, you know, have a lot of faith in Microsoft, and I still think that they can make very good business decisions, and I think they will. I wouldn't necessarily let the failure, if you will, of Mixer hang, you know, in the heads of those who are concerned about, you know, where Discord's going to go, because Discord is wildly successful without Microsoft, and them being acquired by Microsoft could only potentially open up the possibilities, you know, which I can't even fathom, you know, what would come of a Microsoft purchase here.
No, I am too. Like, even just, you know, take us out of the equation in terms of, you know, us covering this from a quote unquote media standpoint, you know, trying to do this in a professional light and whatnot. As a fan of Microsoft, I personally never felt better about Microsoft and about what they're doing with games, honestly. And outside of, you know, I would say early to mid 360 generation, I haven't felt this good about owning and being invested into a Microsoft ecosystem, whether that's Xbox, PC, whatever. And that ecosystem keeps getting broader. And I think that's, you know, such a huge forward-thinking thing that we've seen over the past couple of years, and we're beginning to see it pay off now a little bit. And especially too, within the next, hopefully, knock on wood, 1 to 2 years, we're going to start seeing these games pay off that we're seeing. This doesn't, to me, say, and this is all still hypothetical. You know, we're Adam in his article, and, you know, I'm sure what Jason Schreier did over on Bloomberg and everything like that, like, they're all very vocal in saying, you know, hey, Discord is still, you know, looking to potentially, you know, talk with other suitors. They're talking with Epic Games. They're talking with Amazon. They may even go public too. You know, so there's different ways, but, you know, those who run Discord are smart. They know what they're worth, and they're clearly in a recent $1 billion valuation, they're worth a lot. Not to mention raising over $100 million in capital. So, like, to me, though, this doesn't reek of the, like you were saying, that early Xbox One, hey, we have Skype integration. Hey, we have, hey, why don't you set up a fucking, you know, a third of your TV screen so you could have, you know, your cable box on there or some shit like that. And it could be a DVR for you. And it's like, no, fucking stop.
Yeah.
I want to, can I have games on this $500 machine that I bought in 2013? Like, you know, so to me, though, this doesn't reek of that. This reeks more of, because of how light Discord is in general, and how flexible it is and whatnot. I mean, even just, and we're recording this through Discord right now, you know, looking at, you know, just how, I don't want to say how bare bones it is, because it's very, if you want to get very technical with it, you can, but there's a lot of flexibility with it, that it can be as small and you know, least intrusive as you want it to be, or you could have it super engaging or whatnot, but have this be your potential backbone for communication with your, you know, with your system's communication devices and whatnot. Like, having that Discord technology in, you know, integrated into your software and whatnot, that to me just completely changes the game for every console gamer out there who's playing on Xbox. Obviously, PC, that's a given. That's Discord at this point. If you're playing PC gaming, that's when you build your computer or you first start it up, that's probably the first or second program you're downloading. It's either Firefox, then, Discord or Steam. One of the two. It's either Discord or Steam is the ones you download right off the bat outside after you download fucking Firefox or something. But to me, this doesn't reek of that, oh, nobody wants this. Like, the thing with Mixer is, too, and like just kind of building off that, and this is no slight to anybody who streamed on Mixer, there were tons and tons and tons of excellent and creative minds who were on Discord, who are now, finding success on, Twitch and Facebook and wherever, YouTube. They're moving on to these different platforms and finding success, and that's great. But my heart went out to them when that happened, because that's the 1% making the decision for the 99 that fucking blows, and they have no say in it and whatnot. And some people's livelihoods are built into that. But the thing with Mixer is they just never had the fucking oomph to get over that Twitch hump. They never had that. They were, they would, every now and then they would you'd see some of the things that happened. The Ninja deal, the Shroud deal. And those are things I praised at the time. That I was like, that's what Microsoft has tons of fucking cash. If you want to get people onto your platform, whether it's fucking gaming, whether it's, video streaming, whatever. And in this case, when it comes to actual game streaming, streaming centered around gaming, fucking, you're Microsoft, you have unlimited funds, and I say that loosely, obviously, jokingly, but you have a stupid amount of money. Open the checkbook out, bring these guys in, and say, okay, you want to watch Ninja? The only place you can is Mixer. And that drives your audience. That forces the hand. And, I don't necessarily like it when it comes to exclusivity for gaming, but if those things are what you need to kickstart your company and whatnot, like, I get it. I don't think it's, shitty or shady or whatever you want to call it, but it's, it is what it is. And that's why I kind of praise them for it. I'm like, that's a smart play, because you're getting not only Ninja, but Shroud in that deal too. Two of the biggest fucking, content creators on your rival platform. Like, that's fucking incredible. It just never panned out. You could see the writing on the wall, and kind of Microsoft kept doubling down on it, where it just never had that oomph and that great start to begin with, where you see Discord, and Discord is a fucking proven commodity, and it's something that people, millions and millions and millions and millions of people use on a daily basis. People build their businesses around Discord. Like, to me, this is a no-brainer. If you're Microsoft, like, I think $10 billion, a lot of money, so stick with me when I say this, is cheap for that technology and that brand and that user base and whatnot. Like, that is cheap, because you're keeping the PC audience, but you're bringing this whole new audience into your service via console gaming, into your ecosystem that is needing reasons for people to come and invest in it. And granted, people who are, in that echo chamber already know how great, Game Pass is, and how, extensive things are, or how more user-friendly things are becoming in the Xbox ecosystem. But, this is another reason to bring people in, and saying, like, to me, $10 billion, if you're Microsoft, that's not ridiculous, because you're this fucking juggernaut of a company that, okay, cool, you'll make that back. Like, no problem. There's no issue. But I'm curious to see, like, how do you think this would all play in, like, with, like, Game Pass and everything like that? Like, there's obviously Nitro when it comes to Discord, unless they got rid of that. I don't know if they did. I can't remember. But they had their own premium service and whatnot. Like, how would Microsoft, I guess, build into something like that?
Yeah, I feel like...
Like, what's the added value for people buying it? Because I'm sure, yeah, they're going to offer it right off the bat to say, hey, you can use this for comms or whatever, but, like, $10 billion is still $10 billion. Like, how are they going to make the money back on that end about it?
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a way that they're going to tie that into Game Pass. I feel like there's going to be some inclusion with Game Pass that you're going to get if you have Discord, right? Like, there's going to have to be something like that. Like, maybe if you have Game Pass, you can like server boost for free or something of the sort because they have that feature. I would imagine that would be the most logical way to get people to really give back to your platform, because there's never a business decision that's made for no reason. Like, they're not going to buy Discord just to buy Discord and have it. That's not something that they're going to be looking to do. I don't believe so anyway. I think that they're buying Discord because they're trying to position this as like, how can we retain maximum value for our Game Pass? And there are people that pay money to Discord every month to server boost, so you can put higher quality clips in your chat and have bigger voice calls. Like, whatever the case is, people use Discord a lot for a lot of different reasons, as you've prefaced earlier. My biggest point and my biggest thing is, like, the way they're going to get that money back is simply by going ahead and, saying, if you have Xbox Game Pass, you can server boost for free, and you can get all these other features on Discord for free. And I wouldn't even be shocked to see some type of game sharing service. So if you have a buddy that's on PC and they don't have Xbox Game Pass currently, but you have Xbox Game Pass and you guys are in Discord, I could see them doing something as simple and as commonsensical as, like, letting this other person demo the game. Like, hey, your buddy can demo this game, even though they don't have Game Pass. We're gonna let them get 5 hours for free to get them in. And then you're gonna show them all the value that Game Pass has. Those are the type of moves that Microsoft are now going to make. And also, if Microsoft really wanted to, they could say, hey, we own Discord now if the purchase does go through. And if Discord is purchased by Microsoft, they're going to blackball Sony and say, you're not getting Discord on Sony ever. Yeah. It's never happening. Sorry. And they have every right to do that as a potential business owner. Like, if they own Discord, they could blackball them if they want. Or, hey, you know what? You can still subscribe to Discord, or you can still subscribe to Xbox Game Pass on your computer. And if you link your Discord accounts, guess what? We're going to let you use Discord on Sony or something. Now, I'm not saying like Sony would ever go for that, because you're going to have to develop Discord for the PlayStation, and that's never going to go through. But that's like next level marketing and chess that they're playing right now by making this purchase potentially. Then they're basically showing like, hey, we have enough money that, yeah, people might be down on Microsoft now, but once you see the moves we have coming down the pipe, you're going to have to respect our authority. And just for lack of better terms, like, I don't know what else to say, but like, that's why this purchase would make sense for me to see Microsoft do that.
No, and I totally agree with you that we're going to end up seeing things like that. And it almost harkens to, the whole conversation around Bethesda even too, where we've been seeing, so many people be like, oh, is it exclusive? Is this exclusive? What's going to happen with that? And, we've been pretty vocal on, both sides. We could see anything happening with this, where I thought, and we still don't know if that's going to play out. Whenever, it first was announced, I was very much, I fully don't see Elder Scrolls, Fallout, the big guns, maybe Starfield would be, and we're going to hopefully, I think that was kind of our consensus now that we know that there will be some exclusivity with Bethesda titles that, we'll see what Starfield is. That could be the catalyst to kind of say, like, see what we think will happen with these big titles. But, I didn't think alone for, the millions of copies that were sold on Sony platforms that they were going to annex them or exile them or whatever you want to call it. And to me, though, this almost, reeks to that where, maybe I don't agree with it in terms of like, man, I wouldn't want to see that. I think you could bring more money in. I think, there could be walls that we can, smash down from console wars and all that bullshit and whatnot. But to me, though, Microsoft is already being pretty flexible with a lot of the things they do in terms of, and granted, they're playing from behind still, and, from last generation into this one now, and, they're trying to do things that are more consumer friendly to win people back into their ecosystem. But even so, like, Sony's starting to kind of get there as well, too. Not at the same degree that Xbox is doing, but we're starting to see more and more flexibility come as these walls are coming down. But at the same time, too, if you're paying $10 billion for something and you want to say it's exclusive, you have every fucking right in the world to do so. Like, there is no stopping. You paid for that. Just like, I bought my computer, I own my computer or whatever. Like, if I don't want to let you play on it or whatever, even though that sounds super childish or whatever, I don't know. I'm just looking around for example. Like, I own it. I technically don't have to. If I want to, sure, absolutely. And I'm going to let people, but as a kid, you're saying, well, I do own this. I don't have to let you type of thing, but that would also be, kind of gatekeeping and whatnot, and who knows. But maybe a bad example, but you get what I'm saying. You bought something, you own it, you're able to physically decide what you do with that. So I wouldn't necessarily blame them if they came out and said, if, say, this deal does go through, because this is all hypothetical and whatnot, we own Discord, and they say you could only, or for the best, communication, to make sure you communicate with all your buddies and whatnot on console, make sure you play on Xbox, because you'll have Discord, and that's it. Like, there's no, Sony doesn't have that option. You could do roundabout ways, and you could, like people do now with console gaming, if they want to use Discord, get on Discord and plug your, have two monitors or whatever, or just a single monitor, and, plug in your console to that monitor and switch it over. And you could use Discord that way. And there's workarounds for it, and I'm sure those will remain the same. But people spend money for convenience and simplicity for the most part when it comes to entertainment and things that aren't necessities. They want convenience. So people are probably going to say, if they have the disposable income, yeah, I'll get an Xbox. Like, it may not be something that completely drives you to get an Xbox, but if it comes down between the two and maybe you have friends who play on PC and Xbox, yeah, that's an easy decision type of thing. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how this kind of plays out, because I don't think we've ever really seen something like this before, because we've never really had a gaming-centered communication, I don't want to say app, but piece of software like this be so integrated into both competitive and casual gaming, where, like, you were talking about TeamSpeak earlier. Mm-hmm. That's always been such a competitive tool at times. Yeah. Like, normally most people didn't technically use that. They would use different kind of, voice chat, party chat, third-party applications or things like that were kind of built into your PC already and things like that, not necessarily something that was specifically designed for gaming and whatnot. But to me, though, we're in uncharted territory with this. So it's really going to be interesting to see kind of how, what this does for the broader landscape of gaming whenever we do get to it, potentially if we do. Even if it is an Xbox and it goes to Amazon, which I really don't want to see, or Epic Games personally, just because Amazon doing some shitty things right now. But Epic Games, like, I'd really be curious to see how that plays into it. And they're huge on exclusivity right now. So what does that look like? And how is that even going to be play into the whole situation with Fortnite and the popularity it has, that it isn't stopping. So, like, it's just going to be we're just in uncharted territory where we've never seen something like this happen with this kind of software directly centered around gaming. That it just shows you where we're at with gaming, I guess. But I digress. Mike, send on to our next topic and news article for the week. In this one, yet again, we're talking Halo Infinite. And potentially a Halo Infinite actor says the game is launching in November of 2021. Shocker, because I think most people at this point already predicted that's probably when we're going to see this game, because we probably would have heard by now if it's coming in the summer. So this comes from Hiram Cryer over on Games Radar. As always, link in the description. Go over there. Make sure you give Hiram a click, a read, all that jazz. A Halo Infinite actor has quote-unquote leaked a November release date for the upcoming game. Last week on the Fandom and Friends podcast, which you can see below, actor Verlin Roberts made an appearance to talk about his career. At around the 1 hour and 10 mark, the conversation turns to Halo Infinite, and Roberts comments that, quote, now it's pushed to later November this year. Right now, we don't have an official release date for Halo Infinite outside of fall 2021. Or fall 2021 window, excuse me. Roberts' comments would appear to narrow that release window down to November, which is actually the month in which Halo Infinite was scheduled to launch alongside the new Xbox Series X and S before it was ultimately delayed. Roberts claims to have access to this information because, as he reveals in the interview, he plays Spartan Griffin in Halo Infinite. The character, who originally featured in the Shadow of Reach novel, hasn't actually been announced for the upcoming game, so it seems as though Roberts might have revealed a little more than he meant to with these comments. Elsewhere in the interview, Roberts comments on what it's like to have worked on Halo Infinite. The actor reveals that he's provided voiceover and motion capture work for the sequel, complete with all of the, quote, standing in a big warehouse covered in dots while wearing spandex that entails. Roberts also reveals that he's done some motion capture scenes with Master Chief's actor, so we know that the protagonist and Spartan Griffin will share some scenes in the game. Spartan Griffin isn't the only character rumored to appear in Halo Infinite. Previously, the Arbiter's actor teased his character's return in the forthcoming sequel, so we could be in for a reunion of sorts between the two leads. We'll have to wait a few more months to see more to know who he is and isn't sure, we'll have to wait a fair few months more to know who is and isn't returning for sure. Tongue twister. So, I don't really think anybody is shocked or would be shocked by a November release date for Halo Infinite for a multitude of reasons. Not only the 20th anniversary of the Halo franchise in general is this November. On top of that, I think pretty much we've already seen a fall 2021 release date after that push from last fall. So we're looking at least a 14-month delay for this game, which I think a lot of people align as, yeah, that's about right. That would feel about right for what needed to be done for this game. But, given the amount of rework that 343 is doing on the game, I just don't think anybody really anticipated it any earlier, not a summer release or anything, but really a holiday season of 2021, but it doesn't really hurt to get some validation, potentially from, on these thoughts from this actor who's playing Spartan Griffin. But what I think is a little more interesting is actually that exactly, and is to see, how Infinite is potentially reaching deeper into Halo's extended universe of stories and characters with what seems to be, the inclusion of Spartan Griffin, now that we potentially know that. So, Mike, how does this play into the bigger picture of the game? We know multiplayer is free to play on this game. We know that the game will, include larger scale, broad levels, akin to that of, I would like to think a Gears 5, which had these, large open, I don't want to say it wasn't open world, but they were open enough that it wanted you to go explore and find different nooks and crannies in the level. They were very broad and open. Free air, almost, if you want. We know that Master Chief will be upgradable. We know a lot of these things about the game. Do you think the rumors of having the campaign potentially releasing in parts plays true, given how much lore now we know they're pulling from? If they're bringing people in from extended universe novels and whatnot, it seems like there's going to be a lot here. And it might not be a lot, potentially in terms of, I'm not saying we're not going to get a full campaign right off the bat. I totally think we're going to get a full fucking campaign for this game right off the bat. But in terms of outside of the main story, and I'm not talking DLC, but, a lot of people have theorized alone with Halo Infinite being the name, playing into that name, that this is going to be an ever-evolving game, and we're going to get more content, more story content over, this is the Halo game for this generation, and they're going to use that as a platform, more or less, So, what do you think about all of that? Where do you think we go from here, and what do you think this game actually, looks like from that end?
I think it's definitely. I wouldn't have been shocked had the game been delayed again. I mean, I've been on that side of the coin for pretty much since they said it was going to be delayed the first time. But what I will say about the entire situation is, if multiplayer is done, which they could do, kind of what we've seen Call of Duty do with the new iterations of the game, where they can kind of release a half-assed game. Now, not half-assed in the sense of like buggy, whatever. If they can clean the game up, get it to where they want it to be, release a game that functions correctly, has limited amounts of bugs, has pretty solid gameplay, they can go the Call of Duty route, because we've seen Call of Duty be successful for years now, where they release a half-assed game, and by half-assed I mean content-wise, release the game halfway, and then from there build off of it. So release only 4 multiplayer maps, release a battle royale mode, release 1 episode of campaign, and then go from there. Because realistically speaking, the multiplayer is already going to be free. So no one's going to have to pay for the multiplayer. So that is something that I could see them doing. Oh, multiplayer is free, but you have to purchase the battle pass to get this, this, and this.
Right, yeah.
That's where I think we're going with this game. And whether you like it or not, it is a tried and true method that works. It works well for Call of Duty. It works well for Rainbow Six Siege. It works well for a multitude of esports, including Counter-Strike too. So if you want your game to be a legitimate esport, if you want it to be taken serious, this is the way that pretty much every other esport that's a shooting esport handles their business. So it's not that bizarre, or it's not that unique or weird to see this happening. I think, truthfully, what you're going to see is you're going to see a multiplayer that is, at the very least, it's going to be partially released. But I think what they're going to do, because a lot of the time in previous iterations of Halos outside of Halo 5, majority of the actual competitive game types and maps were edited. So after Halo 2, once Forge came into H3, basically MLG had map makers and members of the community that would go in, tinker with the spawns a little bit to make them work better. They created maps like Amplified and Onslaught. And those were 2 of the biggest maps. And in Reach, we saw Sanctuary remade. We saw a bunch of Forge maps come into it. The Pit was remade. All those maps were remade in the Forge for the competitive community. So basically what I'm looking for here with the multiplayer in particular is they're going to release a few maps that are going to be, developed by the game. And then I would expect a Forge mode, whether I would expect it on release, hopefully, but even if it's not in release, there's going to be a Forge mode that you can create maps and edit maps and do all of that stuff in a Forge and kind of make your own maps. And then they're also going to have, I'm sure they're going to have like contests like, oh, best Forge map gets put into these playlists, blah, blah, blah. And then on the flip side with the campaign, if you're going to release it episodically, you could do it where pay $60 or $70 or $80 up front and get all of the episodes, maybe even borderline early, right?
Right.
And then, from there, you could buy them episodically, just like you can with like the Telltale games and things of that nature. So that's one way that I see this going. And then I see it just constantly being updated, because at the end of the day, a complete rework of the game is doable. But what you need to focus on is, if you're going to scrap the entire campaign, if you will, and that's what it seems like they might have done, at least you're going to be able to have the physics and things of that nature. If you have to redo the physics engine and stuff, it's not going to be ready. But if you're keeping a lot of that intact and you're only going to strip down some of the gameplay, this is totally feasible. This is totally reasonable. And it's something that I think there's always going to be people who are like naysayers and pissy pants about this situation. Right. And that's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, I think the competitive players, the pros, the aspiring pros, the esports scene will be happy with that. I think if it comes with a working battle royale mode, the entire BR community is going to love that, because everyone's been begging for it, because you're just like the ODST, you're just built for it. And then the campaign crowd can be like, man, like I kind of wish we got a day one complete campaign. But if they were making so many changes to the campaign, you can't reasonably believe that's going to be the case. But by and large, you can get this game out. You can start making money from it finally after investing so much. And it gives you, it buys you more time. Like the fan base that's around now is going to be there whenever you release it, probably. Like people are going to play the game whenever you release it at this point. But you have an opportunity to release it this holiday season when Xbox Series X's are going to be more readily available. Gaming PCs are probably going to be more readily available. Everything is brewing for, a significant increase in availability to the console, availability to the game. And you're also going to be able to start profiting from the game almost immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. And I know they're not in it just for the profits because they have a lot of money. They're Microsoft. We talk about that all the time.
Right.
But a return on investment is going to be, nice and welcomed from the team at 343. And I think that if you truly have something that you're proud of and you release it, there's going to be a lot of people that are thrilled with what you release. And maybe it'll reignite a fire. Maybe it'll show people that, like, there's a lot to believe in at 343. And not only 343, but with this game. Like, you have been patient. Halo 5 was whatever. You've been patient for this game, and we're looking to reward your patience. And this release process could be that patience. But also, they could have the complete game done. And they're not going to release the campaigns and episodes. The multiplayer could be kind of stripped down, but if you give us a Forge, a nice working Forge, and by the way, if the game is seamless between PC and Xbox, giving people Forge on PC versus Xbox is going to be incredible. The things that people are going to be able to come up with map creation wise is going to be awesome. So that's all we really need. We need 4 or 5 completely functional maps, maybe 6 or 7 because you want some big team battle because that's a big thing. But like, all in all, like, you're going to wind up with a game that's pretty solid. You're going to have room to grow, which is probably the most important thing with this game, if we're being honest. Room for growth. And every other game does it, and nobody even bats an eye at it.
Yeah. No.
And you can start your esport craze because guess what? Like, if you release a multiplayer game and you want to start a legitimate esport off, I've already seen from the Team Sentinels team owner and a few other team owners on Twitter start to leak, like, really excited for 2022. So if they're so excited and they said for Halo, not just in general, right?
Right.
They said they're really pumped for Halo in 2022. You have Esports Engine running the show, which is Adam Apicella, who, by the way, ran the show for MLG back. He started the competitive Halo movement in Wheeling, West Virginia. Esports history for you guys. MLG began in Wheeling, West Virginia at Halo 1 LAN, and that was run by Adam Apicella. And that's a guy who has been around the block forever. He's gotten MLG to where it's at. He's gotten game battles to where it's at. He got the Call of Duty League to where it's at. Adam Apicella has been around the block, man, and he wants to give back to Halo. He loves Halo. He's so excited to get working on getting Halo back on the map. You're going to see the fall release. You're going to see the competitive game start to shape itself. You're going to get people with their hands on Forge. It's going to be awesome. I'm actually completely and totally pumped for 343's release of Halo Infinite because it does feel like with their delay, as shitty as it was that they couldn't get the game out on time, it feels like they're starting to make all the right moves for a really quality game, and I'm pumped for it. And I'm pumped to compete. I mean, Christ, I'm going to be 28 years old, almost 29 years old, but I'm pumped to go to LANs and I'm pumped to compete. And even if I'm not going to be a professional player, or even if I'm not even going to be semi-pro, if I'm just going to be like a good amateur player, I'm excited to go to LANs in person again after getting this vaccination finished. I'm excited to go support this scene because they deserve it.
No, I totally agree with everything you said regarding that, me as somebody who's more of a casual player, but still likes to play, Halo in a competitive setting in terms of, competitive matchmaking at least and whatnot. But like, to me, it seems like at this point, and we could have a whole conversation about this, so I'll keep it brief. But like, it seems like this point, it seems like the only thing that could really, the only thing that could get in the way of Halo Infinite being successful, and at least having a chance to make a revival for the Halo brand, if you want to say revival, quote unquote, in the mainstream esports limelight, just in general, really, being this mega hit again in gaming and being this popular, entity in gaming, the only thing that's standing in its way, that could trip it up is itself. If they start backpedaling on some of the decisions they made, if they start, kind of annexing the community and different things like that. But we've seen now, and I think we keep hearkening back to it, that I think this very much feels like Halo's last chance to really have a chance. Like, I don't think Halo's ever going to go away long term or anything like that. But I think this is going to be, I think 343 knows this is their last big, whack at getting Halo to be the mainstream hit it was again, in the broader, gaming landscape. So I think they realize that, and I think they're trying to just do everything by the books and safe to get this game where it needs to go. And if that means being more open to the community and taking more feedback and letting them kind of push the direction of this, then so be it, type of thing. So, in terms of, somebody who loves the narrative aspects of Halo, as it's gone on and whatnot, I think the idea of potentially having this game grow over time is nothing but good, personally. As long as they have content, and as long as they have content and story in a full campaign, a bookended campaign, when that game launches from what it looks like November of this year coming up, I'm going to be happy. I want something at launch, though. I don't want bare bones content at launch. I want that, though, day one. I want to be able to go in and load up, on Game Pass or whatever, however I decide to play it. I think I have the special edition pre-orders or something already, though. However I play this game, when I start it up, I want to be able to go through and with all the Halos, I play the story right off the bat. I play the campaign right off the bat, and then go obviously into multiplayer. And I may not play all the way through the campaign right off the bat, but then I'll go into multiplayer or whatever. But I at least I look forward to the approach of how this game is going to be done narratively. So as long as I have something there day one, I'm going to be happy. But I am totally open to the idea of this game evolving over time. As this game being a platform, both narratively with its story content and whatnot, and also, obviously, from a competitive end, having eventually a BR put into it, because I think that's going to be something, like you were kind of saying, a catalyst to make sure this game stays in the limelight. We've seen the success that Battle Royales have had with major franchises like Call of Duty. Something like that needs to be done for this game eventually. Maybe not right off the bat, but eventually. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to see a Battle Royale end up in Halo. How it's done and how it's incorporated, that's to be seen, but it's up in the air. But I'm with you that I totally agree with everything you said regarding that. You hit the nail on the head from my end. So, Mike, let's head into our last news topic for this week, because we could talk about Halo Infinite, I'm sure, all day, and we will. I'm sure at some point we will probably just have a full dedicated episode to this game. But to wrap it up, let's talk about how Xbox Live, it's dead. It's gone. Xbox Live is dead. Just kidding. It's not, technically. It's kind of dead. It's now Xbox Network or something. They're rebranding. But Microsoft, along with that, makes Xbox Party Chat free as part of its Xbox Live free-to-play changes. This comes from Tom Warren over on The Verge, as always, link in the description. Microsoft is announcing today that the Xbox Party Chat will be free for Xbox owners soon. The software maker has started testing a new Xbox dashboard update with testers today that unlocks Xbox Party Chat, multiplayer, and free-to-play games, and the Looking for Groups LFG feature. Xbox Party Chat is a surprise addition to Microsoft's announced plans to remove the paywall for free-to-play multiplayer games. The removal came after Microsoft was forced to reverse a price hike to its Xbox Live Gold subscription earlier this year. Microsoft is also renaming its Xbox Live service to just Xbox Network, which is part of dashboard changes the company is currently testing. Xbox testers can now access multiplayer free-to-play games like Fortnite without needing an Xbox Live Gold subscription. This puts Xbox in line with Sony and Nintendo's online services that also don't require a subscription to play free-to-play games. These changes will appear for all Xbox owners in the coming months once Microsoft is ready to push the dashboard update out to all users. This latest dashboard update also includes a new firmware update for the Xbox wireless headset that just came out that will improve mic monitoring levels and lower the volume on status tones. So, we've known about the changes to free-to-play restrictions with Live, or now I guess Xbox Network, coming, but Party Chat is good to see because that is clearly an integral portion to the multiplayer experience, obviously, but I still believe that it should, me personally, be all free, because when it comes to just online gaming, in terms of how you play your games online, that should all, in my opinion, should just be free, especially now that you have, a Game Pass subscription, Game Pass Ultimate, and whatnot like that. So, Mike, what does, in general, the rebranding of Live to just the Xbox Network signify to you? Do we eventually see that portion just disappear as well as Game Pass continues to grow and Game Pass Ultimate reverts back to just Game Pass in general to cover just everything. You buy a Game Pass subscription, that's all you ever need. What do you think, and what do you think in general? What does this signify to you, I guess, when it comes to Xbox Live?
I think, I think it's definitely a welcomed change. And like you said, it's crazy to think that Xbox Live still isn't free. I think it's something that is very good for the community if you are championing the thought that Xbox Live is going to free to play. You're not going to have to pay for it anymore. Mm-hmm. All of that is, super important in my opinion. If you are, saying, oh, these are some of the changes that we're making to XBL. All that being said, like making it easier for people to communicate in a game like this is super important, because at the end of the day, you're looking to build on all the good news that you've been giving people. And this sounds like the perfect way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Live, you won't have to pay for it anymore. Like you said, you'd like to see it all free. Obviously that's not coming just yet, but no, I think it's a welcome change, and I'm really excited because Xbox game or Xbox Party Chat is something that, like, it seems like they're almost hedging their bets, right? Like, if we can't get Discord, we're at least gonna have this available for people on PC. You know what I mean?
No, definitely, and that's where, I kind of feel the same way. Where it's like, obviously, that's not going to eventually happen. Like, it's not. Live's never going to become free to a degree, I guess, or at least we're not going to see that for quite a while. But to me, it comes back to that added value where I think even now, just after having Game Pass already for so long, it feels like Game Pass is still kind of in its infancy for what it really is, because it's broke so many boundaries and broke so many borders and different things like that it's like, where does it go from here, or how do you incorporate all of this? Obviously you look at, a Steam and, different PC platforms, and as games become more console gaming becomes more PC-like, people just look at it and say, well, I'll just get a PC instead. Like, I could just go the full route and get a PC, and I don't have to be restricted with certain things, and I don't have to pay for multiplayer and all this stuff. But at the same time, though, the value of Game Pass is so much, and it's right there that you can get it. It just we need to see where kind of everything goes with Xbox Live in terms of Microsoft's commitment to it. They obviously wanted to try to financially force you into Game Pass Ultimate whenever they made those crazy hikes in terms of, what it costs to have Xbox Live, just Xbox Live. So clearly they want everybody to go into Game Pass Ultimate. But to me, it might even, I could even see them eventually dropping the Game Pass moniker and just being like Xbox All Access or something like that. I already know they have All Access, but it's some kind of other marketing brand, and it could just be the Xbox membership, where you're paying $15 a month or whatever it is, equivalent to an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, and you're getting all that plus Discord, plus all this stuff that it's like, at that point, there is no need to even remotely remember Live and this and that. But, it's interesting that it's kind of funny, though, that Live is being downplayed this much in terms of, like, the name change and stuff like that, because Xbox Live is the reason why online console gaming is a thing and remains a thing and will remain a thing into the future. It is the grandfather for making it happen in terms of the success, because nobody did it better than Xbox Live from the get-go. The PS2 with its online capabilities fucking blew. As somebody who tried it before, it was bad. Like, it sucked. And GameCube never had really any true native support for that. But Xbox Live did it right, and they maintained the momentum and took it to the next generation after that and kept it rolling, but always kept it at a reasonable level. And even then, you understood why the charge was $10 a month or whatever it was for Xbox Live at that point. I always bought it in, yearly subscriptions at $60 or whatever it was. That, you saw when as somebody who owned a PS3 as well, like playing online on PS3, then playing on 360, you could easily tell the difference in terms of the server quality and everything like that, where you see where your money was going. We've evolved past that at this point where it's like, what am I paying for with that? Because servers aren't as much to maintain, at least on this general level. And, obviously tech is scalable as it, evolves. And it's going to, as our technology evolves, the, need for networking technology to be able to support that high-end technology needs to evolve with it. And it does, but it's all relative. And to the point where it's like, people are now smart enough to know that it doesn't take as much money as it once did. It's not astronomical. These things, to be able to play games online and support games online, the barrier for the wall, that like, that paywall there isn't as high as it used to be, where you're seeing quality kind of drop at times with Xbox Live, and you were paying more and this and that. Like, as we moved into the next generation of gaming, where it was like, what am I paying for? When I could just, play stuff online for free on PC and it just works. So it's a little interesting to kind of see where this is going to go. And I fully envision we're just not going to see an Xbox Game Pass. We're not going to see an Xbox, Live obviously anymore, but network or whatever you want to call it. It's just going to be an Xbox subscription. You get everything. Game Pass is just, you want to play on Xbox, cool. It's $15 a month and you get access to all our first party games plus some new games that come, and it'll be a rotating thing. That covers your online play, that covers all the bells and whistles that come with it, it covers your Discord premium or whatever. You get all this stuff with it. But it's really going to be interesting to see how that evolves, because I'm curious to see how Game Pass kind of moves past its infancy stage now, and now that we're into the next generation of gaming, and game streaming and downloading on demand has become so popular, then now it's becoming solidified. So where do we go from there? Where do we build off from there? And how do we brand that to not, soon it's just going to be second nature, that people just want this stuff included type of deal. So anyways, Mike, send a party chat before we wrap up the episode this week. If you're new to the show, party chat is where we propose one question at the end of each week that we want to discuss with you. Could be as simple as what's your favorite story beat in a game, what you've been playing during the shitty pandemic, or could be a little more in depth as to why the negative stigma around gaming still exists, and alike. And after answering the questions ourselves, we'll kick it over to you to tweet your responses to the question over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, or our email at bonusaccessory@gmail.com, and we'll read some of the responses the following week. Last week's question: with the success of the Switch, it's kind of a tongue twister, which is more likely to happen? A standalone Microsoft handheld device or Game Pass coming to Switch? And Carson M said, Game Pass to Switch. Primary handheld devices are starting to become an outdated piece of technology, which I can't really argue too much. At least the Switch is hybrid, so it makes sense. Mike, this week's question: do you ever think Microsoft's acquisitions will become too oversaturated or seem monopolistic? I think that's a word. I think so. Or do you think the growth with the gaming division in general across, their gaming division, I should say, their growth with that is just aligning with the continued growth of gaming in general? So do you think it's too much, or is it kind of on par?
I definitely think that I could see why people would say, oh, like Microsoft is going too far, they're potentially monopolizing. Like I can hear all those discussions, or at least arguments, and it all kind of does make sense, to be honest. But to me, like, I don't see a company that is necessarily monopolizing, if you will. I see a company that is capitalizing on opportunity, and I don't feel like they should have to apologize or that there's anything wrong with that necessarily. I think that they have a goal and they're doing, what they have to do to achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. I could see how people would argue. Like I said, I will surrender that people could argue that it's a monopolization type maneuver. But I just don't really give it that much credence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm kind of right there with you too. That I think it's all just kind of, it's aligning pretty well. I mean, we're seeing, we're now in this $1 billion industry at this point where more and more money just keeps getting dumped in the gaming, both consumers and obviously the industry as well, to keep up with that. And, there's obviously, they need to have that supply to the demand that keeps coming for gaming. So, and especially too, I remember back like when we were younger, and it'd be like, there would be like, maybe 1 or 2 games a year that come out. And that was like all you would play, because that's all that like was produced at that time and stuff like that. Because one, obviously game development was so, still in its infancy stage and whatnot. So like, it's a little different, but at the same time, like now it's like, man, there's too many things to play. There's just far too many fucking things to play. So like, to me, it's, I think it's just keeping up at this point, with what us consumers want. And Microsoft has the cash to be able to deliver that. And it's almost to the degree. Now, stick with me here when I say this, but like Disney acquiring Marvel, acquiring Star Wars and Lucasfilm, acquiring Fox, like, Disney might be pushing the envelope a little bit further whenever it comes to who owns that or what they own in terms of, news outlets and things like that. And, there's a conversation to be had around that. But, you always heard people wanted more Marvel content, or, especially people always wanted to see more Star Wars stories told and this and that. Well, Disney bought them, and now they're telling more Star Wars stories. So it makes sense. Like, they're providing you what you want. It makes sense that they would spend billions of dollars to acquire that and make that, make that actually happen, because they know they'll make money on it. And that's the same with Microsoft. Microsoft is led by people who are very, very smart and understand business and sales and everything much better than I do. So if they think Discord or, all Bethesda at $7.5 billion, or ZeniMax, I should say, but ZeniMax and everything that comes with it is worth $7.5 billion, which I fucking sure do think they are. And they think they're going to make money on it. Nothing wrong with that. Cool. Acquire it. Boom. And I'm sure they're going to make money on it. So, to me, that stuff just makes sense at this point. It's just, it's just staying in line. So, Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs? Talk about everything we talked about today. It could be, Discord and Microsoft. It could be Halo Infinite, as always. That's all we ever fucking talk about, I feel like, but in a good way. Anything we talked about. Where can people find you on the interwebs to talk about it?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER. That's Toy Soldier, and the second O is an X. Or you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms, including at Travelus_ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travelus_, same as Twitter. And if you want to play some video games with me, you could do so over on Xbox Live. It's just regular old Travelus. That's TRAVLESS, no underscore. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox, Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's our new show. That's it. Done for the week. Mike, as always, thank you so much for coming through. And thank you everyone so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. Game on. Wash your hands, listen to the doctors. Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.